Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Robinson, and this is Hey Bay City.
So, Jeff, I'm so excited to talk to you because we have a pretty incredible story to talk about.
Yeah, I think so.
And before we get to that part of the story, I want to get to know you a little bit because we don't know each other. We just met for the first time about 5-10 minutes ago. And you mentioned some time in the Air Force, and I did a little stalking of you on LinkedIn. But tell me a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up? How'd you end up here at Bay Special Care?
Yeah, so I grew up in the Detroit area, and I went in the Air Force in 1986, and I was stationed in Oscoda. And so when I got out, I thought, well, what do I want to do with my life? I decided I wanted to go to nursing school, and so I stayed up in the area, went to Alpena Community College as a start, and then to Kirtland, and got my nursing license and stayed up in the area. I worked in Standish for a lot of years. And then migrated down to North Carolina for a few, and then ended up back in the Detroit area. And this incredible job came open in, like November of 2022. And I got a job offer, and I decided to come up here. I'm so happy I did. Yeah,
very, very cool. What was the draw to the Air Force?
My dad was in the Air Force.
Oh, really?
And I was kind of spinning my wheels, so to say, in life, and I decided, I need some direction, and I went in, and I'm very happy that I did.
Yeah. Wait, pilot, or what was your role?
Medic.
A medic.
Yeah, I was a medic. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that's how I kind of went into nursing.
Yeah. So kind of connected to that, what was the draw to the medical field?
You know what? When I took when you go in the Air Force, you take a test, and it kind of scores you to where you probably could be better suited to work. And I scored pretty well, even though I floundered in high school. So I was really surprised, and I thought, I was looking through all the lists, and for some reason the medical stuff keep coming up. I don't know why I picked it, but I did because, my dad, when he was in the Air Force, was a mechanic, and then he rose up through the ranks. So I don't know, it just something drew me to it.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah.
So you're working in other locations, and then this position at Bay Special Care opened up. What was it about the position or Bay Special Care that you said, hey, this is my jam, this is my job?
Well, I worked for Select Medical Company, which is similar to what I do at McLaren Bay Special Care. It's a long-term acute care, and what that is patients spend usually many days in an intensive care unit in the hospital, and then they need somewhere to go, but it's too high-level care to maybe go to a nursing home because we still take ventilator patients. And so I ran Select Medical for 8 years as chief nursing officer. And so this was, when I saw this position open, I'm like, man, I've heard of when I was in the, when you're in the industry, because it's kind of a small industry, I thought, well, I like Bay City, I like the area. And so I decided to apply, and lo and behold, I was offered the position.
Ah, very cool. You mentioned liking Bay City, liking the area. What was there anything specifically that stuck out to you as like, hey, this is the place I want to live?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, Phil. Because being in Oscoda, there was nothing to do, especially in the winter. So all of us GIs would come down to Bay City and Saginaw and hang out. And so I knew the area well. My dad had lived here when he retired out of the Air Force, and so that's, so I thought, well, Bay City is very cool. And then when I got up here, man, it exploded compared to what I remember it being, especially the downtown area. So, it was a wonderful opportunity. I'm so happy that I came up here.
I love that you say that because as locals, as lifelong residents, it's sometimes hard for us to see progress because you don't have anything necessarily to compare it to immediately, but if you experience it at one time and then you come back, you've got this really clear comparison from what you remember it being. And so I love that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I worked at Wagner Steakhouse on Henry Street back, before I went in the Air Force, because I lived up here for like 6 months with my dad prepping to go in the Air Force. And, I always had fond memories of Bay City. But like I said, I don't remember a lot of specifics of it, but I remember Old Town Gym was right down here on Water Street, and that's where I used to go work out. And then when I came back up here, and as I started working up here, I rented an apartment, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool downtown. And my wife's kind of a foodie, she's Italian, so she loves food, and we loved all the restaurants down here, and so we ended up buying a place right downtown here.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so we actually left a very nice area to come up here, and we are so happy we did.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It gives me all the warm fuzzies there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so, Bay City is a diamond in the rough, and I really strongly believe that it's going to make a huge comeback. I really do.
Yeah, we have so many great things happen, events that are happening here that have never happened before. We've got back-to-back professional fishing tournaments.
Right.
We're the only city in the entire country that has had back-to-back fishing championships with purses of $100,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah, we live right at the Jennison building, right next to Winona Park.
Yeah.
We can sit on our balcony, we watch the fireworks from it, we can listen to the music. I mean, it's like living on vacation.
Yeah, it's a little big city. You get a river, you get all these events, but at the same time, you've got 5-minute commutes.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Wonderful.
Bay Special Care. Give me, if people haven't experienced the facility firsthand, they may not necessarily know what exactly that is. It's connected to McLaren somehow, and that's pretty much what people are aware of it. So kind of give me a 101 of what Bay Special Care is.
So Bay Special Care, we're a subsidiary of McLaren Health System, and we call it our host hospital is McLaren Bay Region. And we're located on the west side, in the west campus. It's a 31-bed hospital, and we specialize on, our average length of stay is 25 to 30 days. Where in a hospital, average length of stay might be 3 to 5, maybe in the ICU, maybe up to 10. So we take patients from local hospitals, primarily from McLaren Bay Region, and we get them to a space where they can either go home or maybe go down to a lower level of care, and we specialize in that. We are a licensed hospital. We follow Joint Commission standards, just like a hospital, and it's a wonderful place. Our staffing ratios are very good. We give very specialized care. And we specialize in, complex respiratory diseases, people on ventilators, complex wound care, care that typically cannot be given in a rehab center or in a nursing home.
I think it was last year. It was definitely last year. I ran around the McLaren campus, including Bay Special Care, with Elena Wiesner, and it was really incredible to me to walk into Bay Special Care, because it just felt like here's a really kind of tricky situation that these patients are in. It's compromised health. They might be on ventilators. It's still a really sticky situation. It's not like a vacation hospital at all. Isn't. And in every single staff member I talked to was just so full of love for what they were doing, care for the patients. They talked about, I wish I could remember who I spoke to, but they were talking about this patient that they had, and they almost died, and that saved their life and came back. And something like 3 years later, they ran into them at the grocery store, remembered their name, there's hugs and tears and all of these things. And that really spoke to me that here our healthcare professionals within the Bay County region are they're providing something that no one else can provide.
That's right.
I can go and I can buy a thing from Walmart, or I could buy it from this other place, or I could hop on it. Like, I've got all of these different options. But here in this area, the care that Bay Special Care, McLaren, the rest of our healthcare professionals are providing, we need them.
We do.
They are the only people that can do these things, and they're right outside our back door.
Yeah, I mean, our staff are so engaged. It's a family there. It really is. I mean, there's individuals who have been working there since the day it opened, 25 years ago, and our staff are very engaged. They build bonds, and that's a good way to say it, Phil. They, because they're there for so long, you build up a relationship with the families and their loved ones, and the staff are very committed, and it's a wonderful place, and I'm very honored to be working there.
Was there a reason that you were drawn specifically to this element of healthcare, this special care, kind of 25-day stay, kind of this portion of healthcare?
I wish I could say that in a way, but I actually, just because when I moved back from North Carolina, I never heard of I never knew what an LTAC was. I had a credible job offer with a widely recognized LTAC called Select Medical. And once I got in there, man, I just fell in love with it because we get to build those bonds with our patients. The staff are so engaged. They're taking care of them for 25, 30 days, up to 60 days sometimes. And so I fell in love with it, and I found this is where I want to be. And so when I left Select, I ran a nursing home as a director of nursing for 3 years. That was also a wonderful experience, but I missed that acute care. And when this job opportunity came open for me, it was incredible. And when I came up here to meet everybody, same like you, I was like, oh my God, these people are wonderful. So I walked in. So good. What's so cool is I walked into a place where I didn't have to fix a broken culture like my last couple of jobs. I didn't have to be part of that change agent. Here, it's just a very wonderful facility, and like I said, it's like Bay City. It's a diamond in the rough, meaning that it's untapped potential, and so that's why I was hired to help, hopefully, make it grow.
What you said about building the relationships, specifically 25 days, all the way up to 60 days, that jogged my memory in some of the conversations I had of why the folks at Bay Special Care work there.
Right.
You do get those relationships. You do get to form what is a real human relationship, whereas in other situations, they're in the emergency room and you take care of them, and then you don't know necessarily what happens after that, and absolutely no offense to that, but like here's this element of acute care where you do get to come in every day, and you do get to talk to these people, and you do get to care for them, and emotionally as well as physically, and that's got to be a great reward that you are a reminder that you are caring for another human being.
Well, that's great that you said that, because that's what the foundation of nursing is, caring. That's what we do. And when I look for, to hire staff, that's what I look for, is that caring attitude, because that's what we're here for.
Yeah, you hear all the time about skills you can teach, but the personality, you're given that, and that element of care and that element of love and empathy. It's really hard to cultivate that in somebody if they don't. So I love you hearing you say that. I hire focused on that, who can care for another person.
Thank you. In fact, I use that a lot when I talk to staff or even out in the community. I don't hire on skills at all. I never ask them, how many IVs have you started? Can you do this, that, or the other thing? I hire specifically on their behavioral caring attributes.
And so important in this situation too, because if I'm a patient and I don't want to say stuck with a nurse who doesn't have that element, like my month, my 60 days, it's going to be not only tough physically, but now emotionally, mentally, all of these things. And that affects the physical recovery, it just ends up being a terrible experience.
It does. That's very true. And and I'm glad that you said that. I hope, caregivers get an opportunity to watch this, because that is so true. And I spent time in the hospital, and that's why I'm partially why I'm hearing this with you today, to talk about that. When you're sitting on that side of the bed, and I noticed a lot of things, and it's how people walk in the room. If they smile, if they knock, they greet you, they give good eye contact. That all plays a part. And the worst thing for a patient is if they feel like they're a nuisance. And sometimes I'm made to feel that way. And that's terrible.
Yeah. Not only is this inconvenient for me because I'm going through it, but now I feel like I'm somehow inconveniencing you.
Exactly.
This is a terrible situation.
That is a terrible situation.
Yeah. But a great situation going on at Base Special Care. Just so much care for human beings going on. Speaking of which, you had the opportunity of also being cared for, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, but let's kind of set the stage. So McLaren has annual bed races. Tell me about what that is.
Well, they used to do it back in the day, I guess like 10 years ago, and you talked about Elena, and that's something that we wanted to, because it was like hospital week, and it was a fun thing. And everybody thought it was a wonderful idea, and it actually was. It was a blast, and so, it was a way to engage the staff as well and have fun for the community. They had the high school band playing there, and they had, they had like an MC. Daryl was the MC. Daryl's the president of McLaren Bay Region. And so it was a lot of fun. It turned out to be a beautiful day.
And there's like a parade.
They had, and it was very cool. And Elena is the one that got it going. And so you had to make your own beds. They weren't little hospital beds. They were actually beds that people made, and it was a race. And you had to run down and do this spinning thing. Spin the bed around and run again and come back and spin the bed again and then come back. It was quite a jog. It was right in front of the hospital there. And, it was just a lot of fun. There was, I think, 4 teams that partook, or maybe 6 teams. And, I was on the leadership team. Yeah. And, it was very cool.
I actually had seen a photo of you doing this bed race, and maybe in the video I'll overlay it. But I was like, man, that guy looks intense. just arms flexed, and you're just racing. Like, oh, man, this guy is taking this bed race super seriously. What a ridiculous event that is just so much fun.
Right.
And this idea of having a parade and racing the beds, and everybody looks ridiculous, and you're wearing togas, and it's just over the top. So tell me what's going through your head. Right before you actually do the race. Are you in it to win it, or are you what's going through your brain?
We were the leadership team, so it wasn't. Yeah, we're all very competitive. Everybody on our team. Yeah, we didn't want to. We wanted to give it 100% effort. You know what I mean? And so, I'd say we were in to win it. The first race, it was like a photo finish. It really was.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, I think that the team that beat us won because they had like a palm tree, and I think the leaf was just over the line, and that's what made them win compared to us. So,
cheaters.
So, but hey, they won. They were first over the line. So, so it was a lot of fun. So it was a fun time.
So you did multiple races or heats or
okay. Yep. So there was the first heat was us, and I think it was maybe the pharmacy group. And I'm not for sure, but we did that heat, and then the next heat, was done, and then they would have the final heats where the losers would race against each other, and then the winners of the 2 heats.
So you do your last heat, then what?
So I'll go back to the first heat. So the first heat, we were, like I said, we were going for it. It was 100% by everybody on our team, on both teams. And so, at the first heat, I felt a little winded because I'm not used to doing that, 0 to 100 miles an hour.
Right. Especially in a competitive environment where the adrenaline's going and you got to win. You're pushing it to kind of the next level.
Yeah, I never thought about that. You're right. Yeah. That's probably added a little bit extra layer. So I was pretty winded, but, I felt like, well, I got a few minutes to recover. And, I do suffer from a thing called supraventricular tachycardia. I've had it for many, many years where my heart rate will get up to 160, 180. And usually I can convert myself by coughing or bearing down or whatever. And so I was trying those maneuvers, and I thought, well, I feel like I'm pretty recovered. So the second race was maybe 5 minutes later after the first race. And I did that race. And I think we won that one. By a pretty good margin, so that felt good, but I was really having a hard time catching my breath. And And so I went over, there's a picnic table by the annex. So I went over there and I was sitting there, and I was actually down on my knees trying to catch my breath, and I just could not catch my breath. And I was getting pretty scared. And I was sitting there. I kind of crawled up to the picnic table, and I'm sitting there, and I was getting worried. And you know what? I should have said, I should have walked right over to the ER. I don't even know if I could have made it, though.
Really?
Thank God I didn't walk out to my car. My car was parked, next to the annex. And so I just couldn't catch my breath, and I had my head on my hand like this. And I remember seeing this face, and it was my coworker, Julie, came over to the side. She goes, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I can't breathe." She goes, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yeah," and that's the last thing I remember.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild. A few weeks ago, I had the privilege of interviewing Stacey and Dr. Parsons.
Oh, nice.
Have you talked to them at all, like post this situation about?
Oh, yes, many times.
I want to play the interview that I did with Stacey and Dr. Parsons, because I think it's just so incredible. Like here you are experiencing this medical emergency, and we get to hear kind of from their perspective what's going on. So we're going to play that clip right now. Maybe let's start off, and Stacey, I'll take you first, and then Dr. Parsons, I'll talk to you second. What kind of describe to me what was happening or what you were doing before you noticed Jeff was running into issues? Stacey, what were you doing before?
Well, actually, we had just finished the race, and it was just, there was so much energy around. I was talking to staff on the street. We were taking off all of our costumes and our togas at the time, and folks were really just starting to clean up. And so it was pretty quiet. It wasn't as rambunctious as during the race. And for me, my first identification of something wrong was hearing Dr. Parsons yelling for help and needing an ambu bag. So wow. I remember turning around and looking and seeing someone on the ground. I see Dr. Parsons down there, and my first thought was, are we really doing a mock code out here after a race?
So at first you thought it wasn't real. You thought it was fake.
I didn't think it was real. I didn't think it was real, and it's something that I remember talking to Jeff about. For me, it felt like it was an hour before I got from hearing Dr. Parsons yell for help to getting over there to Jeff, and it was seconds. It was just, it goes so fast. And there were already a handful of folks doing what they do best and well to make sure that the care for that patient at the time, who, I even remember asking Dr. Parsons, who is this? As I was running, I said, it's Jeff. We just ran with Jeff. Jeff just got us through that race.
Okay, so we'll pause there. Dr. Parsons, what were you doing before you noticed?
So, just like Stacey said, myself, Stacey, Alana, Sean Fisher, our CFO, and Jeff, we had just finished running the last leg of the bed race. And, when you have a group of all type A personalities, right? Everyone out on the field was playing to win. So needless to say, I think did a very respectable job pushing our bed, and have to give a big shout out to Josh because he built a phenomenal bed to race. But so after the event kind of occurred, and the Bay City Central Band was playing on the south side of the annex building there. 15 minutes or so after, the conclusion, and the band dispersed, and folks were, starting to head back into the hospital. I happened to be standing on the southeast side of the annex building, right on a little walkway, and we have a beautiful tree there on the south side of the annex building, and there's a picnic table there. And unbeknownst to me, Jeff was sitting at that picnic table, just decompressing from the event that we just had. And it was at that point that I heard someone had shouted out that we need help. So I was literally maybe 10 steps away from actually where Jeff was. So I was one of the immediate responders, and it just so who helped him to the ground. And we just so happened to have other, members of I believe it was Erica Armbruster from radiology and Tracy McFarland. So immediately got Jeff to the ground. It was very clear that he was having a significant event, wasn't breathing, wasn't responding to us. A quick assessment of a pulse we could not obtain, and immediate CPR was initiated, as well as airway management. And from there, that's when my ED doc instincts kicked in. So I was, managing Jeff's airway, and ultimately, we, in a very quick order, obtained a ambu bag, which helps ventilate. So we began ventilations and effective CPR. Tracy came in amongst other, members of the team to ultimately, tip the dominoes to get all the care initiated with Jeff. So that included, myself calling out for an AED, and I have to give kudos to our CEO, Daryl Lentz, who knew exactly where the AED was in the annex building. And the rumor is that he took that flight of stairs within two strides. So the AED, literally from the time that I called out for it, which was seconds after the event began, was right there at our side. So, beyond that, I know Danielle, Jean from the emergency department, as well as Lana was there. And that's when the trigger into the hospital for the code to be called, the ED to put on alert. A gurney was already on its way to help transport Jeff over to the emergency department. The cath lab was put on standby, just to be ready. So, all of this literally was, I'm told, although it feels like a very long time when you're in the heat of it, was literally less than 4 minutes to the time that we got him, 4 to 5 minutes to the time that we got him to the ED. And prior to getting him to the ED, that's when he began waking up and was asking what happened. So, I just can't say enough about the quick reflexes and, all the things that we're trained to do fell exactly in line the way it's supposed to. And I think that's why we're having this conversation today. So
incredible. This is just incredible to me. Dr. Parsons, here's a kind of a hypothetical question. Had this happened to Jeff, let's say he was in his car, or he was at the gym the next morning or something like that, what likely would have happened to him had he not been there on McLaren's campus?
Boy, that's definitely a question I think only a crystal ball could answer. All I can really say about it is that the entire team was right there, ready to go into action, and literally the amount of verbal communication that was occurring during all this was frankly very little, because everyone knew exactly what to do. And when we've heard the term seconds count, and Jeff was attended to within milliseconds, and I think that had a very big impact, as well as the efficiency and effectiveness of all the maneuvers and CPR and everybody working as a team in unison resulted in the outcome that was achieved.
Wild. I mean, everyday healthcare professionals are saving people's lives, right? But here's just such an amazing example of how that happens and the teamwork involved. And so, Stacey, my next question to you is, say that on this call right now, we had all of the people responsible for taking care of Jeff in this moment. What would you say to them as a group?
Wow, I will tell you, being part of that team and being new to the McLaren family as the chief nursing officer, it definitely said something to me related to the teamwork and the clinical excellence that exists there. Having Dr. Parsons at the head made me feel very comfortable. I myself had not performed CPR in many years. So, we all are trained clinically to do a job. And when it's on someone that you work with, your colleague that you care about, we go into that mind, we've got to do what we got to do. I would say thank you. Everybody just stepped up. And like I said, they used those clinical skills that they knew, and they were top notch. Like I said, I know Dr. Parsons had mentioned there wasn't a ton of communication. There was the communication that needed to exist. Less chaos, action, and then we had the outcome because of that. We always work in a very good environment. Right, our environment's controlled in the hospital. We have our resources right there and they're handy, but this was not that. This was an exciting day, lots of emotions and laughter and fun, to an emergency situation where there wasn't laughter, and it was serious to business. Actions were performed and outcomes were achieved. And I think it's a testament to McLaren Bay Region, to all of our staff, and to hopefully our community, and that we're here for you. We care about you, and we will do everything we need to do what's right.
I love what you said about really operating in a controlled way and the communication that needed to exist, because a year ago, I spent some time over at McLaren taking some photos and doing some stories over there. And my first time in an operating room, as somebody who has never been really in that situation, I walked into that room thinking that it was going to look like ER and just like chaos and people throwing like bags at each other and like, get this and get this, like just absolute chaos. But when I opened the door and I walked in, I saw the exact opposite of that. I saw people who are professional, who do this every day, who are experts at what they do, listening to music and talking to each other. And it was just, here they are effectively, someone's life is in the balance, but they are acting as if this is their everyday because it is, and that they're trained as experts because they are. And that provided a great level of comfort to me. If I was on that table, I would not want chaos and people throwing and franticness and all sorts of like crazy communication. Like, I would want calm, controlled, professional experts who do this every day. And that just created an immense amount of trust in me. Dr. Parsons, what about you? If I had everybody on this call who was responsible for helping Jeff in that moment, what would you say to them?
I have to echo what Stacey said. I've had the fortunate privilege to be part of McLaren Bay Region since 2005, and work with this incredible team that we have at McLaren Bay. And, yes, we're speaking about one instance here, but I think it's a testament to what we do every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And this is just one of those opportunities to be able to, send our appreciation for everybody on the McLaren Bay team. I had mentioned a couple names, and I know I'm forgetting, others that were immediately involved, and I apologize for that, but it was truly, the whole team with a capital T that that made this happen. So, I mean, frankly, Phil, I've already, met with many of them when we had some debriefings and stuff, and expressed, in incredible pride and just honor to be able to work with such a great team. So, I appreciate you asking that question.
Very cool. And then final question for you both. Stacey first. If Jeff was on this call, I know you've probably talked to him, but if Jeff was on this call right now, what would you say to him?
I think I would say I am glad he was where he was when this happened, and that I am very proud to be his colleague and working along with him and continuing to do so. And in a side note, we made a joke. I said, "You're stuck with me forever." So neither of us are going anywhere. We're very proud to be McLaren Bay Region, leaders.
Yeah,
and it's going to be a long time. We're going to be connected.
Yeah, I mean, both of you are relatively new to McLaren, and as far as team building exercises go, saving someone's life, I mean, it doesn't get more intense than that. So yeah, you guys are together forever.
Yeah, so lucky to have him here as a leader. He's just an amazing leader for the organization, and we're just very blessed. We're very blessed.
Dr. Parsons, what about you? If Jeff was on this call, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, after the event, I followed along with Jeff and visited him on multiple different occasions while he was in the hospital, and he sent me a note last Friday afternoon, and instead of responding by email, I gave him a call, and we just had a really incredible conversation, and we ended that call by almost unanimously, in sync, saying, friends for life. We were totally on that wavelength, and so after that, I was just trying to find my text to him, and what I said was something to the order of, glad we had had our chat, and I'm grateful for your well-being, and kind of left it at that. So I mean, I think you summed up all the emotions very well on the entire scenario, and just happy to have been a part and was there for him when in the team when he was in his deepest need.
Yeah, I just want to say that you both are incredible. Staff at McLaren, incredible. All of our healthcare professionals that take care of us are really doing something that no one else can do. And whether they're EMS or whoever it is, it's just people that have the ability to take care of other people like this are some of the most incredible people, and sometimes we take that for granted. So I just want to say thank you to you both, and you're doing amazing work over there, and I look forward to meeting you in person, hopefully not in a dire health emergency situation, maybe at Meijer or something buying groceries, we can say hi to each other, but if I do end up in that emergency situation, I know who to call. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining me.
Thank you, Phil. I want to reinforce too, you mentioned the staff, that you've came up. It is really all of the staff and all the employees here that inspire us to do what we do. We're a new leadership team. That's exciting. We're looking forward to a future with McLaren Bay Region and some growth in this organization. But it's because of the people that work here that make it worth it. And they're the ones that demonstrate these every day, right? It's them. They're the true heroes here.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you much.
Oh, I asked him what would have happened if Jeff would have walked to his car, if he would have gotten his car and went home, or said, I'll go for a walk around the block. What likely would have happened if that would have been your situation?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I'd be here.
Wild.
Yeah. I mean, when Adam and Julie, Adam is a coworker of mine as well.
Yeah.
Great people, they really are. And they told me that when Adam had to put me on the ground, he just kind of grabbed me. They said I was blue.
Really?
Yeah, blue and gray. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Something else they said too in this interview was that obviously I interviewed two of them, like Dr. Parsons and Stacey, but there are so many people involved that just switched into battle mode. Like here we're all wearing ridiculous costumes and running these bed races and having fun, and then here's a situation where they are now needed as healthcare professionals right here, and all of a sudden it's all hands on deck. I heard Daryl like leaping upstairs to go get the AED, and just everybody collaborating to save your life.
They did.
Well, how does that make you feel in that moment? Because you're a capable guy,
right?
And in that moment, you're unconscious, near death, and you need these people who are you're relatively new to the team as well. I mean, you're just joining in January. How does that make you feel that all of a sudden all of these people were ready and willing to help you in that way?
I'm forever grateful and indebted to them. When I Julie, she's the one that really, responded to me. And, once I was able to, I think she came to see me in the hospital a few times and said, "Hey, Julie, please give me a list of everybody that responded." And she did. And so I personally emailed all those people. And, it was just it's a wonderful feeling that all these people responded, and I think it was like 9 or 11 people's names that she could remember. That's just who she could remember.
Yeah.
That responded and helped save my life.
Incredible.
It's it's an amazing feeling. And it's, I talked to Dr. Parsons and, because he was instrumental, and it's like I have a bond with these people now, forever. Yeah.
Do you have, as someone who's never experienced something like this, what do you have any takeaways from the experience? Any lessons? Any perspective shifts to having gone through this?
Yeah, the biggest thing is that here's my perspective on it. Is that healthcare today is very fractionalized in the way that, it's nurses get a bad rap or doctors get a bad rap. McLaren, whatever, hospital systems in general. These people were wonderful. So, I'm very protective and defensive of McLaren because I saw it. I experienced it in action. They saved my life. In the level of competent care that I received from all the way from out on the annex ground to the ER, to the cath lab, inpatient. I had an EP study done, was top notch, and it wasn't because I'm Jeff that I worked there. It's because this is what these people do, and they care. And the care there is bar none is the best. Seriously, I've worked in many hospitals.
Yeah, it would be easy for folks to kind of write off your testimony as, well, I'm employed there. Of course, I have to speak well of the care, but when you're thrust into that situation and you experience that level of care firsthand, in all, not just even in that acute moment, but in everything that followed and the human interactions after, how can you not trust that testimony?
Yeah, because it doesn't matter if it was me or a private citizen, they would have responded the exact same way.
Yeah, absolutely. As a healthcare professional, I'm sure that you've thought about like what you would encourage other folks that might have heart conditions, that might be in situations like this. What encouragement would you give them? What advice might you give them as far as like taking care of our own health.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, the funny thing is some of the people that say, man, you're the last, person that we'd expect this to happen to.
Yeah.
And it goes to show you that life is very fragile, and one needs to take care of oneself and, eat healthy, live healthy, exercise, and, and make sure that you do get those regular follow-ups with your physicians. And if you have, if you feel something's not right physically, you need to listen to your body and respond to it,
Such a good point, because so much of our kind of inherent approach to taking care of ourselves is reactive. Like I will start working out when I feel terrible, or when I've gained too much weight, or when the doctor says I have to because I'm XYZ now. But here you are working out, physically active. I mean, I saw that picture, like, that dude is jacked. and like you said, sometimes we feel like we're the last person that something like that could happen to you, and until it actually does.
Right. And that's, and I think the double-edged sword to that is, I knew I was struggling, but I thought, I got this. I'm going to be able to convert myself. And I should have listened to myself, my body, and walked right over to the ER, get help sooner.
Yeah.
And so, life is fragile. That's what one learns when this happens. Because, I thought at that moment, my last thoughts were, I'm not going to see my wife and daughter again.
Oh.
I
can't imagine.
That's a terrible feeling.
Oof.
So, so, again, my takeaway to people is take care of your health. You only have one life. You know what I mean? And so it's very important to exercise, watch what you eat, listen to your doctors. There's so much information today that's available to one's fingertips. So, they need to, because this life is very precious, and at any moment it can be gone.
Well, I'm so glad that you're still here with us, Jeff.
Well, thank you. Me too.
And that we've had this chance to meet. If you had, I'm sure the folks over at McLaren are listening to this podcast or watching it. I've had emails like, when is Jeff's interview coming out? When is Jeff's interview coming out? What would you say to those 10, 12, 15, 20, 25, however many people it was that were there taking care of you that day? If you had a chance to sit them all in a room and say something to them, what would you say?
Well, if I had them all sitting in the room, I probably wouldn't be able to compose myself, because I'd probably be tearing up, and I'm not a tearful guy. But, I am forever indebted and gracious to everybody that responded to me and took care of me. And again, it goes to show you the people that I work with, what their compassion, their professionalism, and what they do. And that speaks volumes about McLaren as an organization. And I'm so thankful that I was working at McLaren and I happened to be there that day, because this could have happened to me at the gym. Could have happened to me driving, you know what I mean? So I was at the right place at the right time. And so I'm forever indebted and gracious to the people I work with.
You have all of these corporate icebreakers to new staff members and team building exercises. There can't be one better than this. It sounds like.
I would say not, really. I thank you for having me here today, by the way. This has been very nice. It's very cool. I watch podcasts all the time, and it's kind of cool to be on this end. Yeah,
well, I want to thank you so much for being here, Jeff, and sharing this story, and not only sharing this story, but also being such an integral part to fulfilling a need that we have here in this community. Not just you, but the rest of the staff at Bay Special Care, the rest of the McLaren staff, the rest of all of our healthcare professionals here in Bay County. I can't say enough about how important you are to us. And I know from experience and talking to a bunch of folks in this field that sometimes it can feel like you're just kind of locked away in your hospital or in your facility, and you're doing this really important work that nobody ever sees or recognizes or acknowledges. And so I just want to take this moment to say you are so important to us, and I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you very much. Appreciate being here.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks.
Cool.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Man, you're awesome.